Raider Nation, what's going on? Mitchell Renz here from Chat Sports, and you are watching the Raiders Report. Today's show is sponsored by Missouri. If anybody's looking to get some shoes that'll give you an extra 2.8 inches, look no further than down in the comments and in the description of today's show. Huge shout out to Missouri for sponsoring the Raiders Report. Coming up here on today's show, we're going to be looking at Jonathan Taylor. Should the Raiders trade for him? Then we're going to look at how the Taylor drama impacts Josh Jacobs and the silver and black. And then on top of that, the Raiders, they hold a record now after a preseason game from last week. So the reason why we are talking about Jonathan Taylor on today's show is because I like to talk about NFL news and rumors that could potentially impact the silver and black. On top of that, I've been getting asked on social media, should the Raiders make a deal? So for those that do not know, the Indianapolis Colts star running back requested a trade earlier this offseason. Colts owner Jim Irsay said that the Colts will not trade him. Fast forward here a little bit. Yesterday, guess what happened? Irsay said, all right, man, we'll let you go. You've been now fully granted to seek a trade. So as soon as that happens, and this is just how the world is, and I get it, and I love when people ask me this question, but I just wanted to show an example. So I got hit up on Twitter, and this happened probably 50 times yesterday. Any chance the Raiders trade Jacobs for Jonathan Taylor? So that comes out, and I'm like, all right, well, I have to be able to wrap my mind around it. For those that follow me on Twitter, you already know my stance on it, but my bosses said, Mitch, you got to talk about it on the Raiders Report. So guess what I said? I'm going to talk about it. From a career standpoint, Jonathan Taylor has been a very successful running back since he first came out of Wisconsin. In 2021, he had his big year, 18 rushing touchdowns, led the NFL in rushing yards, I believe, with 1,811, 332 carries. What happened the following season, though? He missed some games, battled some injuries, and now he's on the Indianapolis Colts, who might be the worst team in the National Football League. So here is what I've been continually getting, okay? Not really my trade idea, it's just a trade idea. The Raiders receive Jonathan Taylor. The Indianapolis Colts get Josh Jacobs, because obviously, if you have one running back that's not happy, you can trade him for another running back that's not happy, right? Right? How about this? Let me know down in the comment section right now. Should the Raiders trade for Jonathan Taylor? Give me a Y for yes, or I want you to type your N for no down in the comment section. And coming up here, I'm going to give you my answer on whether or not trading Jacobs for Taylor makes any sense. I just want to make this very clear. I know the trade idea. I know there's going to be people on social media that say, Mitch thinks that the Raiders should trade Jacobs for Jonathan Taylor. I am telling you this in the nicest way possible. The Raiders trading Josh Jacobs for Jonathan Taylor straight up makes absolutely positively zero sense. The Raiders even considering trading for Jonathan Taylor makes absolutely positively zero sense. Coming up here on today's show, I'm going to tell you why trading for Taylor doesn't make sense for the silver and black at all. But before I do that, I do got to show out some love today to our sponsor, Missouri, because the Raiders Report is sponsored by Missouri. Fellas, have you ever wished that you were a little bit taller? Well, if I have just described you, then I got you covered with today's sponsor, Missouri. Missouri makes shoes that make you up to 2.8 inches taller without anybody noticing. Look, girls get heels. Why can't men get a boost in confidence too? Missouri shoes are not only height boosting, but also stylish and comfortable. They're not grandpa's Velcro shoes, but fashionable shoes that can receive compliments even without the height increase. The height increase soles are integrated into the shoes, making it the ultimate height hack. For a limited time only, our listeners get a 15% off your order at Missouri.com/chat. The site is already 30% off, and with our link, you get an extra 15%. That's 45% off your entire order. Support our show and check them out at CONZURI.com/chat. Life's short, but you don't have to be. It's time to level up the playing field. Missouri is an absolute game changer when it comes to your dating life. So here's the reason why the Raiders won't trade for Jonathan Taylor. According to reports early on, Indianapolis wants a first or multiple draft picks. I could promise you one thing. Dave Ziegler is in no way in hell giving up a first-round pick and in no way in hell giving up multiple draft picks for a running back. I get it. Taylor is an incredibly talented back, but why the hell would you do this when you have arguably a better running back on your roster right now? Taylor is looking for top running back money. For people inside the NFL that are reporting this, it sounds like Taylor is asking for more money than Josh Jacobs. Why am I giving up draft picks for a running back that wants more money than Jacobs and is coming off a season where he missed 6 games? If you're not willing to pay Jacobs, who just had 393 touches, over 2,000 yards, what makes sense about going out and getting Taylor? On top of that, if you remember, Josh McDaniels offered a job to the Indianapolis Colts. There was the whole drama and something that I have brought up multiple times in terms of they don't have a good relationship. McDaniels and Jim Irsay do not get along. Irsay doesn't like McDaniels because he feels like he was left high and dry. McDaniels doesn't like Irsay because, look at the stories of what he was doing in the bathroom when McDaniels and his wife were over at their house getting introduced to the team. It's not a good story no matter what. So the Raiders and the Colts, no, they're not going to make this trade because it's not going to end up going down. Now, I did see a really interesting article out there from Albert Breer, and essentially Breer shows and talks about how he went out and he asked multiple different GMs, executives from both the AFC and the NFC. So what you're about to see here is, according to Albert Breer, he asked multiple GMs, multiple executives, what they could get for a Jonathan Taylor trade. First GM said a second-round pick. AFC exec said third and a fifth. A package in the value of a second or third was the quote. A third or a fourth-round pick. A second or a third, and then less than the Christian McCaffrey trade. Another NFL executive said maybe a day 2 pick. So you're looking at a second or a third-round pick. Second, third-round pick, possibly a day 2 pick. And then an NFL exec, a fourth that could turn into a third. So as you can see in there, there is not a single executive, general manager, nobody is willing to give up a first-round pick for a running back. It is something that Jonathan Taylor has to realize. It is something that Josh Jacobs has to realize, which is why I wanted to bring it up on the Raiders Report. So how about this? We talked about the idea of the Raiders trading for Taylor. Doesn't make sense. We talked about the Raiders trading up straight up for Jacobs and Jonathan Taylor. Doesn't make any sense. But what about this? Because earlier this offseason, we saw Austin Eckler ask for a trade. Did not happen. Will Taylor get traded now? I mean, it is August 22nd. At the time I am making this video, the NFL regular season is just a few weeks away. NFL teams have to get their team from 90 all the way down to 53 by August 29th at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So will Jonathan Taylor get traded? Type T for traded, type W for won't. When I think about this entire scenario, I don't see how he gets traded unless Indianapolis is okay saying, sure, we'll take a second or a third round pick for him. I don't think that that's what they want. And they also know that they hold all the power. The problem with the running back market is right now is running backs don't have any leverage, and it sucks. I will continue to say the running back market and the housing market are the exact same. Let's just say, though, okay, Taylor, he ends up getting traded. To me, these are the top 5 teams most likely to make a deal for Taylor. I'm going to say the Miami Dolphins are number 1, and it's not all that close to me. They just lost their running back, A-Chain, and yeah, the injury's not as serious as what it was, but this is a Dolphins team that was looking at Dalvin Cook. They were looking at Ezekiel Elliott. Both those running backs are gone. And now you could have an opportunity to trade for Taylor in a run-first offense. The Minnesota Vikings are definitely going to be interested. The Buffalo Bills, I do think, could show some interest as well. And then we'll say the Commanders, the Chiefs, the Broncos could also be interested in Jonathan Taylor. Coming up next here on the Raiders Report, why Raider Nation should monitor the Jonathan Taylor situation. I know that this is the Raiders Report, and I know Taylor is an Indianapolis Colt, and I know that there's going to be so many people out there that the fact that I'm even making this show, it's ludicrous. And I'm looking at all of you telling you, it is crazy. But sometimes I got to make the show for the 10%, the 15% of fans that think that trading for Jonathan Taylor is a good idea. I got to just tell you, though, why it does make sense to monitor this entire situation. If you love Raiders videos every single day and you're looking for the latest around the silver and black, you want to be able to broaden your horizon, you like free stuff? Hey, we got you covered. Hit that subscribe button. I like to believe that we have the best Raider fans in the entire world that subscribe to the show. And maybe if you're a new Raider fan, I can promise you this. If you watch this show for 1 week, you're going to have a hell of a time, and you're going to know a lot more about this team than you did before. If you go a whole week and you don't think that you learned anything and you didn't have a good time, unsubscribe. You got absolutely nothing to lose. We are free after all. So here is why you should watch the Jonathan Taylor situation. If the Colts give Taylor a brand new deal, what does the deal look like? Yeah, it's probably going to be a multi-year deal because Taylor's in the final year of his rookie contract. The biggest comparison, though, is Taylor can get a multi-year deal. Josh Jacobs can't. So that's a really important thing to look at. On top of that, it's how much money. If Taylor gets $16 million a year, if he does end up getting a deal, if I'm Jacobs and I'm Jacobs' agent, I go, that's my new number. That's what I'm looking at. I don't think that happens, but it is important to look at how much money he gets. If Taylor gets traded, how much does he get traded for? What's the draft capital? Because if I'm the Raiders and Taylor goes for a first-round pick, I'm telling you right now, I'm putting Jacobs on the trade market, and it's going to happen. What Indy does if Taylor isn't traded? I know that there's a lot of people out there that don't know what to do with the whole Jacobs situation, and if you're the Colts, you just say, okay, Taylor, you're not going to play this season. We'll pay you $4.93 million, and you can just sit on the bench. You're only going to hurt your value next season when you hit the free agent market. And I think that's the exact same thing that the Raiders know. If Jacobs doesn't play this season, he doesn't make any money, and he only hurts his own impact or his own ability to make money next offseason. The final thing that I'm going to show y'all is the new record that the Raiders officially own. If you didn't pay attention to yesterday's preseason game, it's a shame because I can honestly say yesterday's preseason game was probably the most electric preseason football game I have watched in a very long time. The Baltimore Ravens won 24 straight preseason games. Well, guess what? After a last-second Commanders field goal, which gave them a 29-28 victory over the Baltimore Ravens, the Raiders, they own a new record. Right now, the Las Vegas Raiders have the longest preseason win streak at 6. I'm hoping that they are able to extend that to 7 because my fiance, she's a big Cowboys fan. I bought Cowboys-Raiders preseason tickets, so if anybody plans on going to this game here, just don't show the matchup. The title's not right. If anybody plans on going to the Raiders preseason Week 3 matchup against the Cowboys, be on the lookout for Alex. She's going to be walking around. I think she's going to be wearing Raiders and Cowboys stuff. Her dad's going to be there. Her mom's going to be there. Her dad's birthday was on Sunday, so I got them tickets to go to the game. But they're going to be hanging out. Hopefully the Raiders can win this one. I need the bragging rights. Jeremy Chuggs and I were also going to be at the tailgate. So if you plan on tailgating, we'll probably be there from like 2 to 4:30, 5 o'clock-ish. So if you see anybody walking around in a Aiden O'Connell jersey, or we might dress Chuggs up like Farva, I haven't decided yet. Hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, be on the lookout, and hopefully you're ready because this watch party that Jeremy and I do on Saturday, it's going to be insane. Over 100,000 people in back-to-back weeks, and I can promise you for Raiders-Cowboys, the second biggest channel here at Chat Sports is the Dallas Cowboys Report. We're going to be competing against them, and I know the nation's not going to let us down while we take down Tom Downey and the Cowboys.